Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's unpack a really fascinating strategy play from the tech world. I- Intel computer processors, right?
The chip.
The silicon powering your PC or like a giant server farm. Well, a few years back, they made this massive leap, not into faster PCs, but straight into the world of cars that drive themselves.
Yeah, it was definitely a bold move. Not really their usual playground, you know.
Right.
We're talking about jumping headfirst into the whole autonomous vehicle industry.
And we're going to dig into how and why they did that today. We're using insights from an article titled From Acquisition to Innovation, How Intel Leveraged Mobileye to Enter the Autonomous Vehicle Market.
Yeah, that source gives us a really good roadmap. So our mission for this deep dive is, well, to understand the thinking behind that huge, what was it, $15.3 billion investment?
15.3, yeah, massive.
And zero in on exactly what Mobileye brought to the table that was worth that much, then see what innovations actually came out of it all and kind of figure out what it signals, you know, for Intel in the future of getting around.
Get ready to look at Intel in maybe a totally different light. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's rewind a bit first. For decades, Intel's whole identity was, well, core computing.
Yeah.
Chips for our computers. What was happening out there that suddenly made driverless cars look like Intel's next big thing?
Well, I mean, while Intel was obviously this giant in traditional computing, the automotive industry itself was going through this really profound transformation.
Right.
Cars were just becoming these incredibly complex electronic systems. You had sophisticated driver assistance, ADS, and then, you know, the big goal, full autonomy.
More than just screens in the dashboard.
Oh, way more. It was about processing just massive amounts of real-time data. Think sensors, cameras, LiDAR, all needing instant analysis.
Oh, okay. And that data piece is where Intel saw their opening.
Exactly. That's the key. They saw the car basically evolving into something like a data center on wheels,
But
which, you know, fits right into Intel's core competency. And the autonomous vehicle market was just exploding. You had Tesla, Waymo, Uber, all pouring billions into R&D. Intel recognized this wasn't some niche thing anymore. It was the future of mobility, and it was going to be incredibly, incredibly data intensive.
And that realization led them to do something specific, something really big.
It sure did. March 2017, Intel acquires Mobileye. Now, this is an Israeli company, already a major player in vision-based advanced driver assistance systems.
ADS, right. The camera tech helping cars see.
Precisely, helping them understand their surroundings. And the price tag, USD 15.3 billion, just staggering.
Wow. Yeah, 15.3 billion is definitely not pocket change. It really shows they were incredibly serious about this.
No kidding.
So the motivation seems clear, get into this data-heavy, high-growth AV market. But why Mobileye specifically? What did they have that was worth paying such a premium for?
Well, at the time, Mobileye certainly had market presence, no doubt. They were supplying vision systems to, over 25 automakers, shipped millions of chips already.
Okay, so they were established.
Established, yes. But as the source points out, the real value, the thing worth that kind of money, wasn't just their existing ADAS market share. It was their specialized technology.
Okay, tell me about that tech. What made it so special?
So the core of it was their proprietary EyeQ chips. These weren't like your standard Intel CPU.
Right.
They were specifically designed, really optimized, for the incredibly demanding real-time computer vision tasks that self-driving needs.
Like what kind of tasks?
Instantly processing floods of camera data, identifying objects, pedestrians, other cars, signs tracking movement, making super fast interpretations of the whole driving scene. Trying to do that efficiently with the general processor is, well, much, much harder.
Okay.
The EyeQ chips provided that sort of essential foundation for the car to actually see and understand what it's seeing.
So specialized silicon built just for that challenge of real-time perception. That makes a lot of sense. What else was key? Was it just the chips?
No. Another really critical piece was their REM, or Road Experience Management, mapping technology. This was pretty innovative stuff.
REM mapping.
Okay. Yeah, instead of relying just on, static maps that someone builds once, REM uses data collected from Mobileye-equipped vehicles already out driving around.
Oh, wait, so the cars themselves are building and updating the maps constantly.
Exactly. As they drive. It's a crowdsourced, dynamic mapping system.
That sounds incredibly scalable.
It is, and it's crucial for autonomous systems because they need unbelievably precise and totally up-to-date location data, like down to the centimeter level.
Got it.
So combining the specialized tech about the EyeQ chips for seeing, the REM mapping for knowing where you are with Intel's existing strengths, That was the magic, the strategic synergy.
Intel's strengths being?
Well, Intel had the muscle in high-performance CPUs, FPGAs, other AI chips, massive data centers, connectivity like 5G.
Right, the big computing power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mobileye had the focused expertise in automotive vision and perception. Putting them together just dramatically accelerated their ability to build these comprehensive end-to-end AV platforms.
I'm starting to see the picture now. So Intel needed Mobileye's very specific optimized tech to even get in the AD game effectively. And Mobileye presumably needed Intel's scale, manufacturing clout, and maybe that broader computing power.
That's pretty much it. And it all circles back to that initial insight about data, that data explosion.
You're right, the 4,000 gigabytes a day number.
Yeah, the source mentions Intel estimated an autonomous car could generate up to 4,000 gigabytes of data every single day.
Wow.
Intel's grand vision was to dominate the processing, the management, the leveraging of all that data. Mobileye's ability to collect and interpret visual data right there in the car at the edge, it fit perfectly into Intel's strategy to be central to this whole data-centric future of mobility.
Okay.
It really pushed Intel's focus towards software, edge computing, AI platforms, not just selling raw silicon anymore.
Okay, so they make this huge acquisition. They combine their powers, Intel's computing and Mobileye's vision. What happened next? What tangible results or innovations actually came out of this synergy after the deal closed?
Well, they didn't waste much time showing progress. By 2018, so just a year later, they were already announcing plans for autonomous vehicle fleets. They started testing in Jerusalem, then quickly expanded to other cities like Munich. Getting those real-world miles under their belt was absolutely crucial.
Right, proving the tech actually works outside a controlled lab environment.
Exactly. And Mobileye spearheaded the development of something really quite significant. The Responsibility Sensitive Safety Model, or RSS.
RSS.
Yeah, this is a big aha moment if you think about the hurdles for AVs. RSS is basically an open, formal model. It uses mathematical formulas to define what actually constitutes safe driving behavior for a machine.
Defining safe driving with math. This sounds fundamental, actually.
It really is. It tackles that core question. How do you program a machine to drive safely, proactively, not just reactively swerve to avoid crashing?
Right.
RSS provides this framework for decision-making that aims to prevent the vehicle from causing a dangerous situation in the first place, regardless of what other unpredictable human drivers might do.
That seems critical for things like regulatory approval and just getting people to trust these things.
Absolutely. Public trust is huge. So that was a major contribution to the whole AV field, honestly, not just for their own systems.
Okay, what about specific platforms? Did they build like an Intel mobile brain for cars?
Sort of, yeah. They developed the Mobileye Drive platform. Think of it as a full turnkey autonomous driving system stack, meaning it combines everything. The perception from the cameras and sensors, the REM mapping, the decision-making logic, the driving policy based partly on RSS, and the actual vehicle control outputs.
Wow, the whole package.
The whole package. And what's really noteworthy here is it wasn't designed just for those super high-end, expensive robotaxis. It was built with scalability in mind, targeting commercial vehicles, delivery vans, trucks, and potentially, eventually, regular passenger cars you and I might buy.
So that really broadened Intel's potential market beyond just niche applications, like getting into B2B, mobility as a service.
Exactly. They weren't just selling the components for AVs. They were selling the whole integrated brain and nervous system for them.
Gotcha.
They also formed some key collaborations, working closely with major auto players like BMW and Delphi, which is now active, focusing on developing those highly automated systems, level 4 and level 5 autonomy.
The kind where the car really drives itself under most conditions.
Right. And of course, to handle all that data we talked about, they launched a cloud platform using Intel's own heavy-duty hardware Xeon processors, Optane memory.
Makes sense.
So all of this together really cemented Intel's role as much more than just a chip supplier. They became builders and enablers of future mobility solutions. I mean, by 2022, Mobileye had truly transformed from mostly a hardware vendor to this full-stack AV provider. They'd shipped over 100 million EyeQ chips by then.
100 million.
Yeah, and had real-world deployments starting up globally.
That's a huge evolution in just, 5 years after the acquisition. But let's talk money again. That $15.3 billion massive bet, did it actually pay off? financially for Intel?
Well, according to the source material, yeah, it looks like it really did. A major validation point was the Mobileye IPO in 2022.
Right. They spun out part of it.
Exactly. Intel spun out a portion of the company onto the stock market, and that IPO valued Mobileye at somewhere around $21 billion.
Okay, wait. So they bought it for $15.3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years later, the part they spun out was valued at $21 billion, and Intel still kept the controlling stake in the rest.
That's pretty much the financial story, yeah. It created significant shareholder value, gave Intel financial flexibility, strategic leverage. It was a big win on paper.
Okay.
But, the payoff wasn't just monetary. The acquisition dramatically boosted Intel's whole reputation and market positioning.
How so?
Well, it suddenly put Intel squarely in the conversation as a major innovator in a super high-growth, really futuristic sector like autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, it helped redefine who Intel was, right?
Yes.
Moving beyond just being seen as the PC chip company.
Precisely. It gave them this powerful pivot point, which was really valuable, especially as, PC sales growth was slowing down and competition in their core silicon business was getting fiercer. It gave Intel this vital foothold in the rapidly expanding intelligent edge market.
The intelligent edge, meaning?
Meaning computing power that's needed locally, right, where the data is generated, not just in a distant cloud data center. So in a car, in a factory robot, in smart city infrastructure. That's the edge.
Got it. And Mobileye kept growing within that Intel structure. They didn't just get absorbed and disappear.
No, absolutely. They've secured major ongoing partnerships with global automakers, Volkswagen, Ford, the Chinese giant Geely, especially with their Zeekr brand.
Zeekr.
That Zeekr collaboration is highlighted in the source as a key example, really pushing forward on advanced mapping and data collection, driving towards that software-first future for cars globally.
And how does that relationship work day to day?
Well, it seems Mobileye operates with a fair degree of independence, which probably helps them stay agile and focused on the auto market. But they clearly benefit hugely from Intel's resources, R&D collaboration, access to Intel's advanced manufacturing, their global market reach.
Right. Best of both worlds, maybe.
Kind of looks like it. And here's a fast fact from the source, just to put the scale in perspective. By 2024, over 150 million vehicles worldwide were equipped with some form of Mobileye tech.
150 million.
Yeah. And their own AV test fleet had grown to over 100 vehicles globally. Intel, through Mobileye, is now positioned as a leader in a market that's expected to blow past $800 billion by 2030.
Okay, $800 billion market. Yeah. That initial $15 billion bet is looking pretty smart in hindsight.
Seems that way.
So looking ahead then, what's next for Intel and Mobileye in this whole space, based on what the source tells us? Where are they heading?
Well, the future looks like continued expansion and probably deeper integration. We're likely to see their tech deployed even more broadly across different kinds of vehicles, commercial trucks, more passenger cars, definitely, maybe even public transport applications, basically making autonomous features more mainstream.
Right, not just luxury cars or robo-taxis.
Exactly. And a key platform enabling that is something called Mobileye SuperVision.
SuperVision.
Yeah. This system allows for hands-free driving, primarily on highways right now, and it's already being deployed in mass-market vehicles, not just the super high-end stuff.
Okay. So that's a stepping stone towards fuller autonomy that people can actually buy now.
Precisely. It makes advanced driver assistance, leaning towards autonomy, much more accessible and cost-efficient than trying to build, level 5 robo-taxis right out of the gate for everyone. It brings sophisticated tech to a much wider audience.
Makes sense.
And another really big trend they seem perfectly positioned for is this shift towards software-defined vehicles, or SDVs.
Yeah, SDVs. Heard that term a lot lately.
Yeah, it's basically the idea that cars are becoming more like smartphones on wheels. Manufacturers are moving towards architectures where new features, updates, performance tweaks are delivered via software over the air.
Okay.
Mobileye's whole data-centric approach, their expertise in software stacks for perception and driving policy, combined with Intel's underlying compute power. It just aligns perfectly with this massive transition in how cars are actually built and how they'll function long term.
So their vision fits right into where car manufacturing itself is heading.
It really seems to. And you're also seeing tighter integration right down at the chip level. Mobileye's newest generation of silicon, like the IQ6 and the really powerful IQ Ultra chip,
Hmm.
they're being built using Intel's most advanced manufacturing processes. They're 7 nanometer, they're 5 nanometer nodes.
Ah, so they're directly leveraging Intel's core silicon manufacturing expertise now.
Exactly. It brings that synergy full circle, using Intel's foundry capabilities to power Mobileye's specialized automotive chips.
And is Intel taking what they've learned from this, really intense focus on automotive and applying it elsewhere? Is it helping their other businesses?
The source suggests, yeah, absolutely. Developing these incredibly complex, safety-critical systems for cars gives Intel unique experience that's super valuable in other demanding, data-heavy markets.
Like what?
Well, think smart cities, industrial robotics, other kinds of edge AI applications where you need high performance, reliability, and often real-time decision-making. They're leveraging these learnings to influence their strategies there. It definitely strengthens their credibility as a platform leader, not just in PCs or servers, but across this whole range of AI-powered industries.
Wow, what a journey. From, focusing mainly on computer chips to becoming this fundamental player in shaping how we get around in the future.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the source material really drives home how Intel's acquisition of Mobileye wasn't just like buying some cool tech.
No, not at all.
It was a deep strategic re-architecture, really, to position themselves right at the center of this data-driven, AI-powered future of mobility.
It absolutely redefined their whole trajectory. By integrating Mobileye's super specialized vision and mapping tech with their own broad computing and AI strengths, they didn't just enter the AV market, they became this critical enabler. They help define safety standards, build full-stack solutions, especially, like we said, at that intelligent edge.
Right. And the successful IPO, the ongoing big partnerships, the just sheer scale of Mobileye tech that's out there now, 150 million vehicles. It all suggests that an initial massive $15 billion bet is really paying off, both financially and strategically. It kind of proves that even tech giants have to make these really bold, sometimes uncomfortable moves to stay relevant, doesn't it?
It's a really powerful case study, yeah. And,
Yeah.
as you think about this whole Intel Mobileye story we've unpacked, here's maybe something to chew on. This kind of strategic acquisition, combining that raw hardware power with really specialized software, deep data capabilities, and focusing intensely on a whole evolving ecosystem like mobility, could this be a kind of blueprint, for other tech giants trying to navigate other really complex, data-intensive future markets? What lessons does this specific deep dive offer us about how big players need to innovate and adapt to actually thrive in a rapidly changing world, not just, react to it?
That's definitely something to mull over, how to make those big bets work.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all for this deep dive.